This is my garage. Do you learn how? A rooster says, here is a pig. The devil says,
is it on my side? On my side. Is it to the sky? To the sky. Is it to the sky? And I'm searching for with a good apple. If I took you for a ride, would you take it wrong? Would you make it right? Make it right. Looking for the store to push you up. You'll be on my way. On my way. Is it to the sky? To the sky? To the sky? And I'm searching for with a good eye. Stop up trying to prove my mind. I can do it all my own. Stop up trying to kill my time. Still the depths inside was warm. Don't remember half the time. Even high I lost, but I'm on my way. On my way. Is it to the sky?
Welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining me today. We are going to look at some crazy stuff pretty quickly. Something I thought I got so confused by, right? So give me a thumbs up or whatever. Let me know that you guys are able to hear me. Everything's good. Maybe not because the mic's way over there. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good evening, wherever you are. I was so concentrating so much on making sure all the videos were all lined up, I forgot to pull the friggin' mic in my face. I want to apologize for yesterday. I went a bit hard on that stupid Johnny Somali video, right? Ramsey Khalid, whatever his name is. And I swore a lot, and I don't like to swear a lot when I'm on stream, but he infuriates me so much. There's someone, you've probably got someone in your life or someone you know or something that really infuriates you, right? Like we say, gets on your goat. Anyway, so early this morning, around probably about 3 o'clock or something in the morning, I came across a video, and I was like, didn't they, why am I looking at the same thing again? Like, it's like this was posted just only 3 hours ago, right? Or actually half an hour ago. And it turns out there's two of them, and it happened twice, a year apart. So let's go find out what happened a year ago, and they'll come back and see what happened just this week. And this is on Australian news, so it's very, updated. And it's crazy. Like, seriously, I mean, when they go, it's the biggest, you go, are you sure? Because that's what confused me. So this is $1 billion cocaine seized in Australia's biggest drug bust. And this is from the BBC, right? And then afterwards, I want to play another video, and you'll think like...
Now, police in Australia say they've made what's thought to be the country's biggest ever drug bust, seizing cocaine with a street value of $1 billion. The joint operation with the United States has led to 12 arrests linked to a Mexican cartel. Australian police had been following the delivery for months and at the last minute substituted the cargo with fake drugs. From Sydney, Phil Mercer reports.
Australian police say the drugs were intercepted by US authorities off the coast of Ecuador in November. The large haul of cocaine was bound for Western Australia. Investigators substituted the illicit cargo with plaster of Paris, a fine white powder. The shipment was dropped into the Indian Ocean west of Perth and monitored by drones and helicopters.
Over a number of weeks, our officers from the Transnational Serious and Organised Crime Squad and other officers assisted to reconstruct those identical packages and drop 1.2 tonne of those drugs into the ocean 40 miles off the coast.
Over the next few days, the police watched as a criminal syndicate with alleged links to a Mexican cartel used 2 boats to find and retrieve the consignment. Surveillance images show one of the vessels towing the other after it had washed up on a beach where 2 men were arrested. Other suspected members of the gang were later detained at a harbour in Perth, the Western Australian state capital. The police also stopped a vehicle on a highway several hundred kilometres away, where they found a large amount of cash. 12 people have been arrested, including a 39-year-old man from the United States. Law enforcement authorities say Australia's appetite for illegal drugs makes it a potentially lucrative destination for traffickers, but not this time. This haul is estimated to be about half of Australia's annual consumption of cocaine. Phil Mercer, BBC News, Sydney.
You're probably wondering, why am I showing Australia when I'm supposed to be talking about China today? You'll find out in a minute. So the next video, right, as I mentioned, is from this morning. When it pops up. And here we go.
A boat breakdown off Queensland's coast has led to the largest ever cocaine bust in Australian history. Police seizing around $760 million worth of the drug, bound for our streets, arresting more than a dozen people, including 2 juveniles.
A broken down recreational fishing boat packed full with an estimated $760 million worth of cocaine.
What we believe is the largest ever seizure of the drug in Australia.
The mammoth haul, sourced from South America, equating to 11.7 million individual street deals, found at sea around 18 kilometres off Gari on Saturday night after allegedly being picked up from what authorities call a mothership in international waters.
Criminals will do almost anything to further their greed and their profit.
The fishing boat tracked by Queensland Police, Australian Federal Police and Australian Border Force after a month-long investigation. Their interception plans disrupted when the boat, purchased just last week, broke down, leaving the crew stranded for several hours.
We had to change things quickly. Suffice to say, I don't think we expected their vessel to break down. They certainly didn't. The syndicate had previously attempted to use another vessel, and it had broken down as well.
Towed to Harvey Bay as 13 people were arrested, including 2 juveniles and Ryan Sean Givney, alleged vice president of the Comancheros Brisbane chapter. The arrests made not only at sea but also Bundaberg and Brisbane. This is just a small sample of the full seizure. 322 bricks, each weighing 1 kilogram. The entire haul, 2.34 tonnes, made up of 51 bales, just like these.
This seizure and the arrest made will undoubtedly prevent widespread harm to families and individuals across the state. This operation has decisively dismantled a major drug trafficking network and sends a clear message.
Claire Todd-Hunter, 9 News.
So that was like 15 hours ago, right? And by the way, check this out. 2 minors, so under 18-year-olds, involved in trafficking cocaine. Now, one of the things that's just happened in Tasmania is they've they brought before Parliament with a new premier, which basically says, like, hey Nathaniel, if you do adult crimes, you do adult time. So those 2 kids, if they were in in that area, because I don't really know a lot about the states in Australia, but they run it like the states in America. In New Zealand, we just have cities, right? And territories, but we don't actually have like states that govern itself. So there was one, and they were saying like how now if you're a youth criminal and if you do youth time, because they've had a really uptick in youth crime because of the laws there have changed over the last 10 years, where they basically stopped trying to, put kids in jail or put them in in disciplinary situations if they do, crime. So they've realized that per year, crime rates have gone up, and people have just gotten sick and tired of it, and they've elected someone who's tough on crime, and he's basically said, I said I was going to do it, and you voted for me to do it. I'm going to do it. I've done it. So next up, we're going to look at how crazy it's been with announcement of Trump coming into office, and what's been happening with drugs, right? I didn't expect to go with drugs first. I was expecting to go with all these other stuffs in this, but because a lot of people don't know the amount of drugs that are moving across with China's backing into America, and why, and how many people are dying, and how bad the opiate system is, even though they hear about it all the time. Thing is, like, when you hear about statistics all the time, you become numb to it. Like I just showed you, like a year ago, $1 billion US, that's 1.6 billion New Zealand, right? And it's probably about 1.4 billion Australian, or maybe 1.5 billion Australian, depending on what the current rates are. But the other thing is, seriously, that's a lot of money, but that was just a year ago. And as you can see, it's South America sending their drugs into, how do you arrange? And this is what, like the other week, I talked about, gangs and stuff. These guys with, how do you get money? How do you get the contacts? How do you figure out who's going to get you the drugs in South America and get them over to here, because it's a huge network, right? Underground network, black market, deep web dark web kind of thing. Because nobody just picks up and goes, hey, send me a ton of cocaine and I'll over here and I'll get it. No, you got to have the money, you got to have the context. And so when people talk about people in gangs and stuff, there is this dark underbelly that they deal that and these illicit things that actually ruin people's life. And like I mentioned before, there was two guys who were two minors, right, under 18, who basically might have their whole life ruined because they got involved with guns. Maybe they're prospects, right? Hey, you want to join your gang so I can be set up. I've been looking at, like, and I mentioned in other, in the last one where I talk about gangs and stuff, that I've been actually looking into the gang culture and stuff like that. And so I've been learning a bit about that and how it works, and I've been, when I was younger, I was around gangs and I didn't even know I was around gangs because it was, they were just my friends. And even when I found out, it didn't seem like a big deal because they were just my friends. They were my older mates. But here's the thing, right? So, as you know, that, Trump won and he promised that he's going to be hard on China and on, people exploiting America, like hard out on NATO, on Europe. And he said, like, now he's come against Canada, because Canada's basically said, hey, anybody can pass through us and get into America. Like, our borders are open. And Trump's like, for the fast 4 years, yeah, I mean, even though he's out there, doing speeches and rallies, getting shot at and getting shot, and all this, and going in and out of court, trying to, people, they're trying to keep him tied up so he can't concentrate. His team's been out there finding out what needs to be done in the world, and especially for America. And so because of that, they've been watching and finding out all the dirty tricks that other nations are playing into trying to ruin, what we call the leader of the Western world, right? The country, USA. And as I've said before, whether you want to believe that or not, where America goes, so goes the West. It is, our entertainment, it's our cultural, to a certain extent, a lot of our culture comes from America. And to have a weak leadership, you can see how weak the world has become in the last 4 years. As soon as Trump was out, war started up, right? Sometimes, as we all know, like, if you have a tough guy in the office, people who either are weak will take notice, right? Or those who are strong will go, well, let's test this metal, right? And Iran did that, and Iran basically had to take a step back when he just took out one of the people, right? One of the leaders, or one of the tough guys, whatever. Now, with China, Trump's always been harsh on China, and that is because of IP theft. Now, one of the IP thefts I want to talk about, because before, let's do the drug thing, right, first, and then we'll go into the IP theft. So this, by the way, this only came out 6 hours ago, right? So not that long ago. This is from China Observer. China Observer is a really cool, really cool channel. And there's another one, and that I've shared before. And I'm not going to play the entire video, but I want to play some of it. So as always, I will link to it, and then you guys can see, in your own time, what the rest of the, hitting all the wrong buttons here. Excuse me. All the rest of the videos to see what's going on. I'll play the start and I'll play the end, because there's a lot of things being of importance in this video. But of course, I don't want to concentrate just on one video today. All right, and so this is titled "Before Trump Takes Office, Mexico and China and Canada Act, Blocking Chinese Goods Via Fentanyl Crackdown." Right. Now, let me bring this up, the video. Here we go.
November 25th, President-elect Donald Trump announced that due to the large influx of drugs like fentanyl into the US, he would impose a 10% tariff on goods from China once he takes office. He also planned to impose a 25% tariff on goods from Canada and Mexico. Trump explained that these countries have not taken sufficient action to prevent drugs like fentanyl from entering to the US. He emphasized that the US had repeatedly discussed the issues with China, but the talks have been ineffective. After the announcement, Mexico's newly elected president, Claudia Sheinbaum, pointed out that her government had already developed a plan. This plan will step up efforts to block Chinese fentanyl from entering Mexico and stop the flow of illegal immigrants to the US-Mexico border. It will also promote the production of goods by Mexican companies to replace imports from China. Mexico's Secretary of Economy, Marcelo Ebrard, stated that the country would conduct a comprehensive search across all 32 states, including ports and airports, to target illegal goods coming from China. On November 28th, around 200 officials raided a shopping mall in Mexico City known for selling Chinese products. Over 260,000 items were seized, valued at 7.5 million pesos, around 370,000 USD. Meanwhile, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau held an emergency meeting with provincial leaders to discuss the situation. Canada decided to create a coordinated policy with the US to block fentanyl and illegal immigration from China. The Canadian Finance Ministry stated that the three countries under the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement would align their policies toward China. This meant that Canada and Mexico would consider following the US's approach. Additionally, Trudeau flew to West Palm Beach, Florida to meet with Trump and personally express his commitment to the new policy. Commentators noted that Trump's move was aimed to bring Mexico and Canada back to the negotiating table, forcing them to cooperate in tackling the flow of Chinese goods and drugs that were harming North American markets. If these issues were resolved, punitive tariffs on Canada and Mexico would not be necessary, and the tariffs would instead fall solely on China. China is not happy about the development. The day after Trump's tariff announcement, Chinese Foreign Minister spokesperson Mao Ning stated that China had one of the strictest and most thorough drug control policies in the world. She argued that fentanyl was a problem for the US, not China, claiming that the fentanyl material China produced was for medicinal use. Once exported, it was misused as a drug. Therefore, she suggested that the US should focus on its own drug control issues. Fentanyl is a colorless, odorless synthetic opioid used in medical settings for pain relief, 50 to 100 times stronger than morphine. However, when abused, it can cause fatal respiratory failure. Criminal groups have used fentanyl to make illegal drugs, mixing it into counterfeit prescription pills, heroin, and increasingly into methamphetamine and cocaine. Many people who overdose on fentanyl do not realize that they're taking it. More than 90% of the raw materials needed to make fentanyl are sourced from China. These materials are exported to Mexico and Canada, where drugs cartels mix them into illicit drugs and smuggle them into the US, contributing to tens of thousands of deaths in the US each year. In 2023, fentanyl was responsible for at least 70,000 deaths in the US. Ann Milgram, the head of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, said in May that the U.S. is facing the most devastating drug crisis in our nation's history. Over the years, fentanyl has become a highly controversial issue in the U.S.-China trade and diplomatic relations, with many analysts predicting that the fentanyl problem could ignite a new round of tensions between the two countries. On November 19th, the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission recommended in its annual report that the U.S. Congress should revoke China's permanent normal trade relations status. Similarly, on November 14th, Congress John Molinar, chair of the U.S. House Select Committee of China, introduced a bill calling for the formal termination of China's PNTR status. With the Republican Party set to control Congress and the White House, there is a high likelihood that China's PNTR status will be revoked. Analysts believe that even before taking office, Trump has already set two major hurdles for the US-China trade. First, China will be held responsible for the flow of fentanyl into the US, and all goods entering the US from China will be subject to a 10% additional tax. Second, China will lose its PNTR status. PNTR, which replaced the former most favored nation status, meant that US tariffs on Chinese products are usually much lower than those on goods from other countries. The average tariff for most favored nation status is around 2.2%, while non-MFN tariffs are about 42%. When Trump was president, he imposed about a 20% tariff on a large number of Chinese products using Section 301 of US trade law. As a result, 48% of exports to the US no longer enjoy the benefits of the MFN tariff rate. According to a report from the Peterson Institute of International Economics in September, by June 2023, the average US tariff on products imported from China has risen to 19.3%, up from just 2.3% at the beginning of 2018.
So you guys remember when he was saying, hyperbolically, as the way Trump speaks, right? He goes, I've made China pay back so much money. I can't remember the exact words, but they owed us so much money, and I've made them pay us back, right? And he talks about IP theft, about how the manufacturing from America went over there, and basically slave labor, very low paid labor, and we find out we're going to look at no paid labor for months of these workers. So just so that these companies could make 100% markup on the goods they bring back over here. And so, they started having to pay tariffs, like, hey, like you saw, like, went up from like, what was like 20%, 40% or something.
Order from China has risen to 19.3%,
19%.
up from.
So within like 2 years of, is it 2 years? 16, right? Of 2 years being in the White House, right, as president, Trump brought in from 2.3 up to 19.3. So 17%. That's like our GST rate on, like our goods and services tax that we pay on top of everything else, right? For food and services, whatever. It's about 15 point, I think, it's 15%. So China had to pay more than that, right? 4% more than that. 2% more than that, so 17%, right? While Trump was in office. And then now he's looking to raise that up. It's basically like you're getting cheap deals, we're losing work for our for our citizens, and our manufacturing is going over there. So now you're going to have to get paid taxes for you to have it over there. You to get the cheap deals and get all your laborers, and raise up your economy on the back of our intellectual property, in the back of our countrymen being unemployed, our citizens being unemployed, our citizens losing their jobs. Well, you're going to pay back to us. And so with that, the employment rate in America went low, more money went into people's pockets, right? But while he was in office, and I'm not trying to bolster off Trump, but while he was in office, they learned a lot of things that they didn't know about what was happening with the money, right? The government was taking and using up so much of. It's like Kash Patel in the FBI. He goes, "Where's all this money going? Why are we like just this week? I found out why is America still paying $40 million to Afghanistan, and we're not even there anymore? That's $40 million of US money. And this is after leaving about $2 billion or something, or $800 million or whatever it was of like equipment, of military arsenal there, and resources there, because of Biden rushing out. And of course, several people died, right? Due to that. And it was just a debacle. But now you're going to pay them $80 million, 40 million US still on top of that. And the country's gone totally backwards to where they're, they're executing people in stadiums. like it's friggin' Rome, like a spectator sport. That's Afghanistan, right? So so the other thing, like the 10%, right? When he was doing that, I was thinking like, well, that 10% could go away easily if they ran through everything they're sending across in the ships. It gets checked over before it even leaves the port, right? There's no fentanyl hiding in there. And the other thing I've done is like I've looked at like how drugs, like how the cartel and how drug dealers use vehicles and people to get drugs across the border, and all the crazy ways they do that. And it's just way out there, man. You wouldn't even think of it, and it'll be like that far. How do these guys? It's like you've like this like ingenious kind of autistic kind of way of coming up with these ideas to send these drugs across, and then of course when you got an open border in the north and you got an open in Canada where they don't you can just walk across basically, right? And I think it was one of my acquaintances, online acquaintances, Niobe, right? Larry, who lives in Canada, he was saying there's an area where you can just, it's like an open secret that you go there, you can just walk across into America. And then when he goes, I'm going to build a wall to keep people out, they go, no, you can't build a wall because it's wrong to keep these people who want to come into country illegally out. And like I've said before, this is why I love being an island nation. We're so far away from the mainland. However, right, drugs still get here because of criminals, and because if you can't get into America, you're going to target the Pacific, right? You're going to target Europe. And I've seen enough crime thrillers and TV shows and about the whole network and how they network to know. And one of the other side of that is like how we kind of popularize these criminal activities, and so kids growing up look at it as like, oh man, they have the money, so we could do that, right? So and also popularized by rap music, right? All the time. If you go back and watch, what like gangster is like being a gangster is like the great thing that Black American youth look up to, and then so that passes down the right culturally down the line across the world into ethnic minority groups, into Fiji, into New Zealand, into Australia, and they see that, well, why do I need to get a degree? Why do I need to work hard when I could just join a gang and sell drugs? I want a pair of Nikes. Well, why should I work hard, to get that $90 to pay for that when I could just steal from somebody else, right? Or if I could break into a building and get it. And and then like the lady said in the first video, second video, I should say, that there's a huge demand for drugs, but part of that drugs, there's a whole network of crime, right? There is addiction. I was watching Monster. It's a Japanese manga series. Let me just look it up. Sorry, I had it open before and I clicked it off. And I posted about this just today because I'm up to about episode 36. I was doing some coloring today, laying some flats down for one of my for the tortoise cover. And so while I was doing that, because it's kind of you got to concentrate hard, but every now and then I can have the dual screen, the other TV screen playing the anime, so I could not get bored, because it's tedious just going around the outline of of an ink drawing and then filling it with color, right? And you're making sure that every little spot, there's no white showing, because if that shows, it sticks out, right? They're like, oh, you missed that spot. You know, especially your peers will go, oh yeah, you missed that spot, you know. So this series, right? It's it's a crime thriller. It looks at different areas um of society, right? It's about a doctor a brain surgeon who helps a kid, and then 9 years later, turns out that all this terrible stuff's happening. So this is and it's I recommend it if you're looking for a good little hey Bugsy, hey man, how you doing? So this is the anime here. This is the manga, but I highly recommend this, man. This is so good. Um, and let me get to that. It's like, because the one thing is, like, we have animes come out almost, almost every day. I mean, every week or something. But sometimes there's some great classics out there as well. And if you miss it, you can easily miss these things because there's so many new things coming out all the time. So what I want to do is I want to play this trailer. It's such a it's so good, like really, really good. But like I mentioned, it's about a brain surgeon called Tenma. He's a Japanese surgeon living in Dusseldorf, Germany, if I remember right. And excuse me. It's basically summer now, so it's so hot, and like not only that, it's like talking, it's like you get a dry mouth again. So I think it's every summer thing for me. Right. So it's 35 episodes. It's 74 plus one, and it came out in decade 20 years ago, right? And it's very high. Like I haven't watched all of it, but I would give it a 10, to be honest. That's how good this thing is. Half an hour episodes, and it looks at like all these different areas of society, and one of them looks at like addiction, and you don't even think it's that's what it is. It looks at prostitution. It looks all the different areas of the underground, because we find out that Kenma is kind of on the run after something happens, right? And so he finds himself running away, trying to get away from the police, get away from people, because he's been accused of murder. And so it's really, really well written. I haven't read the manga. I'm gonna go back and read the manga because this is really good. But I'm halfway through 36 episodes, right? And the writer of it is, his name is, where are we? Naoki Urasawa, right? It was his, if I remember, he did the writing and did the illustrating himself, and it's his first work to receive international acclaim and success. Now, we talk about comics and stuff making about $100,000 sales on one. This manga sold 20 million copies, right? It's won several awards, including the 46th Shoujokukan Manga Award and the Japan Media Arts Fest and the Japan Media Arts Festival Award, right? Its animated adaptation is called one of the best anime series of its decade. So in 2000s, right? So in that time. Now he wrote this manga, sorry, from December 1994 to 2001, and it was published in a seinen manga, right, like shoujo kukan, right, called it was published by Shoga Kukan in Japan, and in the manga, seinen manga, which means like older, right, mature, the reader manga, older, big comic original. So yeah, for 6 years he wrote every single volume, and there was 18 of them. So it's quite a really big work. So let's a bit of this, and like I said, I highly recommend this. There's some really deep, thought-provoking issues raised about society, about Germany's past, about current Germany. This is he's writing this in the 90s after the fall of the wall and so on. East and West Germany, and just excuse me, and just culture. He talks about ethnic minorities in those places and stuff. All things. I'm really amazed by his amount of research, which is what makes this book and anime series really stick out, right? So let me bring this up for you guys to just watch the trailer. It's only about a minute 30. It is really, really good. Like I mean, I can't recommend it enough. It's I find like when I'm watching it, 2 or 3 episodes, after a while I have to stop and just allow it to wash over me. Let me think about what's happening. What's happened in it. I think about the story, and like I said, it's only 24 minutes an episode. TV half hour, but it's very thought provoking, and it's I don't mean like, oh god, it's so deep. No, I mean like it's in the sense it's like he's done such good research on the work, and just the way he weaves his characters in, you don't even think about it, and it's not just him and the main character going do the thing. It's like it's done in a really cool way where there's like 3-4 episodes, and or 1 or 2 episodes, and you get a complete story about those people, and it's just gets you deeper and deeper in it. And I think that's why it's taken me so long to watch it, because like I started watching this I think maybe about 2017, and then I got stuck on the other stuff and I forgot, and then I realized, wait, I haven't finished this series, sorry, but it is so good. Like it's got that whole older style, 20-year-old art style, but really it's timeless, right? Because like the stories, the way it's weaved in, and it's just such a really, it's like it's one of like there's your misunderstood protagonist story. It's like The Fugitive, right? and it's got that really cool deep storytelling, yet entertaining, right? And you're going, oh wow, okay, didn't see that coming. Right, so we got segued there for a minute about drugs. So we're going to come back to the Pacific, right? Because this is where we are, where I am, and we're going to look at what's happened with China and the drugs cartel with the Pacific, all right? And so the world, right? And this is Fiji. And this is from Vice from about a while back, right? Or 2 years ago, right? There's more recent ones, but yeah. What do you think?
When you think of Fiji, Tonga, and the Pacific Islands, you tend to think tropical beaches and lush rainforests, not bricks of cocaine and meth being cooked with rat poison. But there's a new Pacific drug superhighway emerging across the South Pacific Islands, with unforeseen and devastating consequences.
The search for more hard drugs in the Maritime Islands will continue next week. To date, 89 bars of cocaine have been discovered on separate occasions. However, there has been no breakthrough as to whom it belongs to.
This is how the war on drugs is bringing addiction, violence, and corruption to so-called paradise. The story of the Pacific Islands narco explosion really begins in Australia.
The market for cocaine is extremely lucrative in Australia. It has one of the highest rates of per capita consumption of cocaine in the world. And Australians pay one of the highest cost per gram for cocaine. Cartels in Latin America are shipping the cocaine across the Pacific Ocean and through little Pacific Island countries like Fiji, who get caught up in this drug trafficking highway.
Australia is about 8,000 miles from South America and has some of the fiercest customs enforcement in the world. Drugs are notoriously difficult to smuggle into the country.
This is the Sydney International Mail Gateway Facility. It is the biggest gateway facility in Australia, and over 70% of the mail coming into Australia is processed right here, which equates to roughly about 50 detections a day of narcotics. Just before Christmas, we actually had over 120 kilos within the week period. Well, I guess everyone was getting ready for New Year's. Well, not while we were involved, because obviously we stopped that happening.
Of course, that doesn't make people in Australia want those drugs any less, but it does drive their price way up.
A gram of cocaine in Colombia, its street value is about $8. By the time it reaches Sydney, a gram of cocaine will sell for about $200. So it's a massive markup.
These high prices make the Australian drugs market very attractive to international cartels and organised crime networks.
We know what drugs come from what country. You know, Asia, you get your meth, your ephedrine. A lot of prescription medication from India. Europe, you get a lot of steroids, you get coke, a lot of MDMA. South America, North America, Canada, majority is coke with a bit of meth here and there.
And this is where the Pacific Islands like Fiji and Tonga come in. These islands are an ideal stop-off point for international crime groups smuggling drugs from Central America to Australia and New Zealand. One popular technique to evade detection is to drop the drugs in underwater caches attached to GPS trackers, which are then picked up by other ships en route to their final destination. That's how bricks of cocaine and meth end up getting washed up on Fijian beaches.
I come across on this way, and I see one package already na sanakan doon itambot tukinan na buffalo.
But criminal networks are nothing if not innovative. Many groups have now realized that instead of trying to import methamphetamine across the Atlantic, they can simply cook it up in the Pacific Islands themselves.
Equipments that police have confiscated over time showed that there is a source producing illicit drugs within country.
In 2004, there was a massive bust, a meth lab in Fiji. That really shocked people because it was the first meth lab bust in the Pacific, and it really shocked people into thinking, oh, this might be the beginning of local usage and a big concern.
The movement of precursors coming in various forms is still very much a possibility.
But in an illegal market, those precursor agents are often difficult to come by, especially when you're on a small island thousands of miles from the nearest big chemicals factory. Tests are now showing that samples of meth originating in the Pacific Islands have been created with whatever chemicals local crime groups could get their hands on, including new psychoactive substances, sedatives, stimulants, and even traces of mosquito spray and rat poison.
We found out a mixture or concoction of methamphetamine and cocaine, even to the extent of red bait being one of the ingredients that's utilized in this.
And it's not just meth.
Just think about that, man. Like basically poison in the drugs that are coming across, right? And these are people who just don't care about human lives or anybody, because that's the whole point, right? Like they wanna, because it's not happening in their country. They wanna, because it's going to go over to Europe, it's going to go over to New Zealand, it's going to go over to Australia, far away from their backyard, right? So because of that, it doesn't even cross their mind as to who's being hurt. And so the whole Hage gangs, so cool, but they're the ones who are doing such terrible things because, they go and like, oh, there's that whole idea, right? We got to keep the customer addicted. Well, with fentanyl, with meth, customers are dying. So it's not really about repeat customers anymore. And that's what's causing America, and especially Trump, to go, well, we've had enough.
Cited China as the primary driver of the fentanyl crisis. This report revealed that the CCP is directly subsidizing the manufacturing and export of illegal fentanyl materials and has a tax rebate.
Oh, by the way, the reason I played this now is because they found out there was Chinese were doing that and importing fentanyl into and meth chemicals into Fiji.
A program that encourages the export of certain fentanyl precursors. Former U.S. Attorney General William Barr, speaking at a congressional hearing held by the committee, confirmed that nearly all of the illegal fentanyl precursors entering the U.S. are produced in China. He said that without China,
all of it. It's not a little bit. It's not, it's not a handful. It's not a ton. It's all of it, right? So they've chased it down, and they've found out because, as you know, like there's, they've got departments upon departments and departments and people, because what else are civil service, these agents going to do but carry out whatever mandate that's been set to them. So, and they found out it's all of them.
China's production and export of fentanyl and fentanyl precursors, there would be no fentanyl crisis in the United States. Lawrence Kadish, a member of the board at the Gatestone Institute, wrote that fentanyl could be a weapon deliberately chosen by China to weaken the United States. He drew a direct connection between fentanyl and the well-known opium wars in Chinese history. Kadish argued that China's ruler have experienced the devastating effect of the opium wars, understand the insidious roles that drug can play in destabilizing a society. Mexico has long served.
It's like if all your, if all your youth and your intelligent, because I mean, nobody, on the lower economical, whatever, class, whatever, working class is paying $200 a gram for cocaine. The weird thing was, like, this is around maybe about, maybe, what year are we, 24? About a decade ago, just over a decade ago, when I was still earning a lot of money, when I was here in town, I was offered cocaine to purchase, right? And that's the first time I actually came across in New Zealand where I'd been offered. I mean, I'd been offered other stuff, but I'd never, and I was like, no, hell no. I've done enough to know, I ain't gonna let my brain be, even the idea of just being addicted, or the fear of being addicted is enough to make me stay away from that stuff, right? Because apart from grass, it's not something I want to go anywhere else. When it comes to drugs, right? Because I just think like anything that becomes, if you do too much of, and if you rely on it too much, and it consumes a lot more of your time, that means that's taking away from my art and writing and stuff. And it's like why when I'm actually writing, I hardly ever drink, or when I'm working or so, because I just don't want to, like, it's like my hatred for AI, right? It's like I don't want to have anything other than me working on my work, right? Writing my stories. I don't want to have anything else drawing my comics, right? So that's how deeply I feel about alcohol. And I felt about this age for a long time. I remember back in '94, when I was, in '93, when I was going through some issues, right? And I remember like trying to create and write stories while intoxicated, and it was all just unpleasant. Didn't really feel like anything creative. Like it just felt like ghoulish. And I don't mean like ghoulish in a good way, right? Like Iron Maiden or anything like that, or as I mentioned before, like Cabal from Nightbreed, that sort of stuff, or like Clive Barker work or Hellraiser. Nothing like that. I mean, like really ghoulish, like in the sense of like, what am I actually doing? And that's when I realized that, and that's 30 odd years ago, like we're talking about 94, 93, right? When I realized that I don't want anything influencing my creativity. And that's why I don't like, even for, because it'll be so much easier for me to take uh medical marijuana or cannabis with my pain, but I don't even, because I feel like it's gonna like influence my my creativity and what I do with it. And I think when it comes to art, I'm kind of like a purist in that sense, right? And because I don't even use like if I can help it, like I know I haven't. I don't even use AI images for my placeholders. I make them myself, right? And so because I think like even if people, you know, would look really cool and it'll attract people to my channel, I still won't, because it's like I feel like why would I want to take something from somebody else? Sure, I use images and photos, but I actually put them all together myself, order text, or even like the little green person I have there, like the man, in costume I have there, that's from one of my characters that one of my artists drew, right? And so I use that as like the focal piece, and even the what you got, like the homepage with the character there, I drew that myself, like about in 2011 or something. So I found it and I thought, well, it'd be still cool to use that because it's got me with it. I drew it as part of a character called Zero, and he was a radio dude. So now it's kind of like in dystopian place, as a in a story book called Zero, and he's like a character in there, and he's got, he's on the radio, and so I drew him as part of the character. And so based on my looks, right, bald headed, light brown skinned dude, but just anybody really. But and so I thought we'll use that. But yeah, so I know a lot of people use it, use drugs, and you can see a lot of people addicted to alcohol, and a lot of lives have been lost to drugs and alcohol from very talented people, very young age, right? And that's also, I mean, I've been through enough of my own issues to know that, like, I'm just grateful to be alive now. But think of all the people that have lost their lives with so much talent at a very young age, right? And how much more they could, and every time I always think about that, how much more could they have offered to the world?
Served as a conduit for Chinese products, including fentanyl, flowing into North America. This has led to repeated criticism from Trump, who recently warned Mexico of a 25% tariff. This move was effectively throwing cold water on the thriving trade relations between China and Mexico. In fact, the US-China trade war, now in its 6th year, has led many countries to shift their focus from China to Southeast Asia in order to mitigate geopolitical risk and supply chain vulnerabilities. Southeast Asia is increasingly seen as a new global factory and the new global market. Countries have rolled out various incentives, including subsidies, tax breaks, and other measures to attract manufacturing demand moving away from China. A Taiwanese businessman who has invested in China for over 20 years mentioned that due to the US-China trade war, the competitiveness of product manufactured in China has significantly decreased, with tariffs ranging from 20 to 50% on products exported from China to the US. Customers now prefer to import from other countries even if the price is 10% higher. Major US tech companies like Dell, HP, and Apple are accelerating their decoupling from China. They're pushing their suppliers to significantly reduce the portion of products manufactured in China, especially those intended for the US market. The goal is to shift 50% of the production capacity out of China by 2025. Countries like Vietnam have attracted major Taiwanese assembly companies such as Quanta, Compal, and Invectec due to favorable government policies and the support of big US brands like Dell and Apple. India is also seeing major companies like Foxconn, Pegatron, and Wistron moving in.
So Foxconn is Apple, right? And we're going to look at all those guys in a minute, and all the big companies that left China, even in the recent months, right? As you know, I've been talking about China for about a year now, and I think it's been about a year, and how people are leaving. And more like the bigger and bigger companies leaving, because it takes a while for big companies to leave because they've got so many more infrastructure, so many more factories, they've got so many more executives, and high level employees, and as well as like so many lower level employees, but also all the connections in the in the area that they're built, their manufacturing plants in. So it takes them longer to get out. And like she said, decouple, right? Like basically what decoupling is when you got one train stuck to another train, and there's like a metal piece that, hooks them together. But it's really interesting because, lots of our plant, like Fisher Paykel, one of our biggest appliance manufacturers over there, right? And I haven't heard anything about that yet, whether they're leaving and coming back to New Zealand, because that would because I've had one of my friends' father was working for Fisher & Paykel, right? My brother worked for Fisher & Paykel, right? He's over working in Australia now, and Coke and Coke with Coca-Cola, right? And so you can see how, when manufacturing plants leave, there's a whole economy around that, and the finances, that goes into economy to for the families to get better, to provide better things for the kids. Schooling is better. You can employ higher paid, teachers, and then you can buy, better clothes, better brands and all that stuff. The whole feel and society does better because economy around manufacturing, right? But when that manufacturing goes away, I've watched this, and I've mentioned this and previously, how one basically completely left, dairy company, right? The large dairy company supplied the entire area, with employment, and how that one went down, like all the brains went out of the town, and not only that, all the money left, and then so people basically were becoming unemployed overnight. Those who could afford to leave and go along with the company because they were valuable to the company went, and those who couldn't had to find something elsewhere. But they were, because their company had been there for so long, they were, their education was about the company, right? And the dairy and so on wasn't about anything else. The other one was because it's a farming area where I live. And these two, one was dairy, like cheese and yogurt, milk, and the other one was meat factory, right? Butchers. So like our meat would go all over the world, right? And it's one of the largest companies in New Zealand, AFCO, right? And it was slimmed down, was so slimmed down where you don't even recognize it anymore because it's like, oh, it's just there. Whereas before I was like, well, all right, knock off time, you could hear the whistle blow and you go, oh yeah, Pop's coming home now. Dad's coming home, Mom's coming home, cousin's coming home, uncle's coming home, right? And then, I remember like with the dairy company, we lived, like our school was right across the street. Like there, the trucks would go past the school, and then there would be like the intro gateway, and they would always have like ham there for the kids to eat. Like if you felt a bit hungry, you could just walk across and they'll give you a slice of ham. Like we call it luncheon. It's like their kind of like their processed kind of meat, but like you put in your sandwich around thing. But we call it luncheon, but I guess elsewhere people call it ham. And so if with all these companies leaving China and them coming back, they're going over to other Asian companies rather than coming back into America, into New Zealand, into Australia. Because at the end of the day, all these things are made with low income, and it helps those people over there. But we're the ones who use those high-end products. And so we're paying for the goods, but we're not being employed by the companies that makes the goods, right? So I think what is happening with, with these things with China is pretty, is in a way is really good, because it means that people are realizing that, it's kind of like due time that we've, that these people who have been like, I've got this other video about Burger King, right? As well. So where these companies, especially with China, taking something like this, right? Here's an example. So I've always, the first toy my dad ever got me was Legos, right? And so recently, I've started collecting Legos again, and on and off, I Batman, right, or Minecraft. And so if you collect Legos, you'll know that there's like so many knockoff brands, right, with Lego. And so with that, there is, you got to figure out, well, are you buying the Lego that's actually real or the Lego that's fake, right? And not always will you learn if it's the real Lego or not, right? Because unless you see, the specific little, LEGO on there written a specific way, right, you won't know. Like, I mean, so like I said, I'm buying secondhand ones as well as brand new ones. But I like used ones because that they'll, I can basically either make it up or they're already made up. I don't have to worry about it. But the other thing is, I like used toys. I don't like normal. I'm kind of like new or used, but I kind of like the fact that somebody's already played with it, and somebody's already enjoyed it, and it feels so I don't really have two qualms about the condition of it. But look at this thing here, right? Like on the screen, right? So this is a knockoff Batman Lego from the movie, from the Batman Lego movie, right? And so let me go in more detail on another screen. Let me just grab this here. And I came across it as like really cheap. It's an auction, so, and I thought, oh, okay, cool. And then I realized, okay, Lupin. So you can see the number there. You can check it out, but it says Bat Hero, right? And so, you know, everything's there. You get the figure and stuff. Yet it's a knockoff of this one here, and here we go. All right. As you can see. So not Bat Hero, but the Batman movie, right? And fraction of the price, like about 10% of the cost of it. Also, the quality, right? You'd have sharp edges, it'd be brittle. The quality is, you know, and that's what people say, like, hey, we don't mind paying a little extra for these if it's the real thing, right? But the thing is, like, even I was like thinking, like, oh, like, it's cheap. I could buy it and I could, you know, nobody would, I mean, it just looks, it sits there, it looks, you know, whatever it is. But then I'm thinking, like, I don't know, it's a knockoff. It's not what, you know, it's like I'm actually helping in the sense of having somebody's IP stolen, right? Lego, right? It's like one of the, you know, greatest brands in the world, and it's much loved. Like I said, it was the first toy that my father, you know, my stepdad, when he first came to Fiji, you know, to marry my mom, met her, got me 2 boxes off, you know, and this is like 1980s, right? And it's like such a big deal. And so, but then you got, you know, China basically knocking it off, right? And you can slowly recognize the little things that are wrong with it. And I'm going, that's not the right way the logo should be and stuff, you know. But here's the thing. They tell you that it's shuttle brick set, right? Not Lego, compatible. That's when I realized it wasn't, right? Right? Not Lego compatible. It tells you the number, right? And so on, right? 7098 is their number, right? But it's but the Lego number is 70923, which we just looked at, right? But that's just one of them, one IP, right? That's just one IP that's knocked off. There is probably about 1 million brands out there that have been knocked off. And so let's go and look at the latest franchise to leave China is Burger King. And they shut down 200 stores in China in 1 year. And the reason for this is, as we'll find out, has to do with pricing. Because the so-called, you know, economic boom that China was going through has dropped out, right? And so everybody in China is basically, who doesn't have, like, isn't in the, like, part of the CCP, right? Because that's a 2-tier system in China, is like you have like the part of the people in the party and people outside the party, right? And so, you know, the people in the Communist Party and people just trying to survive, right? Who were unlucky, right? The poor, the working class. And so they can't afford the price of a burger. So the other ones, local companies, are basically going, come and buy our one. We'll do it really cheap. And so the price war, and Burger King finally realized, well, what's the point of being in a country that all they want is cheap stuff, and they produce cheap stuff, and they just copy our stuff. And let's just get the hell out before it's too late. Let's go back to the West, where actually people, aren't this, poverty minded, aren't these, actually appreciate what they eat, what they put on the table, and people who want to live a good life, right? Value stuff.
Recently, Burger King in China has faced ongoing troubles. In November, the company closed 10 stores in Fujian province, including 7 in Fuzhou and 1 each in Nangzhou, Ningde, and Putian. As of November 21st, 2024, there are 1,599 Burger King stores in China, far fewer than its competitors, KFC with over 11,000 stores and McDonald's with over 7,000 stores. By the end of 2023, Burger King had 1,661 stores in China, and this year, despite opening over 100 new locations, it has shut down nearly 200 stores. Regarding the closures in Fujian, Burger King China explained that it was due to ending its partnership with a local franchisee, which led to the store closures. The franchisee, however, said the main reason was a significant drop in sales and serious losses. One franchisee shared that they invested around 3 million yuan, about $420,000 to open a Burger King, but operating costs were too high. With expenses like delivery, advertising, and labor, the store always lost money no matter how much it sold. Sales had dropped about 60% compared to 2019. In fact, the sales after the pandemic were worse than during the pandemic, and 2024's sales were 10% lower than in 2023, continuing a trend of losses since 2020. They also complained about poor quality ingredients, such as vegetables that were not fresh or even rotten, frozen patties that were broken upon arrival, and near expired chocolate.
So that's the thing there, right? They the quality of the locals, they don't care about staying with the quality, because they want to make a profit. So you can't trust the local, dealerships, suppliers to actually provide you the goods. And this is not new. So don't think I'm picking on this, but we've looked at this in great detail, right? And just the quality, and of course they fake a lot of stuff as well, but they don't really think about, because here we go, if we saw something, just off kilter, even the rusted lettuce, would go, hey man, right? When was this lettuce put out? Right, you need to get me a new burger or something, right? Because I'm paying the top dollar for what I'm getting, but they don't really have that value there, right? Their number one saying, right, a business saying is, if you can cheat, cheat.
However, Burger King responded by emphasizing its commitment to food safety and quality, stating that both company-owned and franchise stores follow the same supply chain system. There is no difference in sourcing, logistics, or support between the two types of stores. In early November, Restaurant Brands International, or RBI, the parent company of Burger King, sent a termination notice to Burger King's Chinese franchise operator, Tab Food Investments. Reports suggested that RBI was dissatisfied with Burger King's performance in the Chinese market. The closure of 10 stores in Fujian has led some analysts to speculate that it may be related to strong competition from local Chinese burger chains like Tastin and Wallace, which are based...
It's funny, right? This is the other thing. These countries never had burgers and all that, because it's an American invention, right? And suddenly you go there, and this is what I meant about IP theft, right? And of course, we know that in everywhere, right? In the West, we basically, the butter chicken is one of the most most worldwide eaten curries, right? And it's not even a real invention, a real authentic thing. It's I think it was created for the Western palate, right? And also, it's been around. Curry's been around wherever you can get Japanese curry, you can get Chinese curry, and so on. But burgers are new, right? Bread is a Western thing, wheat, and so on. And then so you create, you move there, and then people, other restaurants like local ones go, oh well, let's figure out how that's made, and now let's make that. And now then they undercut you, then they undercut you, then they undercut you, right, to prop it up. And the other weird thing about China is, excuse me, because they're very, they're raised to be patriotic from birth, right? To basically to a point where we're going to see some, we're going to see how much the kids are like indoctrinating with hating Japan, right, from childhood, like kindergarten age. And so if, and that's just one thing. So if the whole thing is like they're indoctrinated into supporting anything their country makes, which is to a certain degree okay, but in turn they hate anything that's foreign and taught to hate anything foreign. But then the country and their leaders want foreign investment. They want foreign companies there. But how do it's kind of a weird place to be, where being a business from a foreign business owner in a country that tells its own people to hate you, but needs you for its economy. So it's been where, like, foreigners have been attacked. I mean, a child was murdered, stabbed in front of his mother, and so on. And there's been a lot more stuff going on there, viciously, where like anybody who's from certain countries, are hated and despised. It's like very much hardcore racism, and xenophobia to 15 out of 10, right? So that's Burger King. So here's a list of, there's like 1,000 other companies, I think it is. Let me just check this video. Yeah, here we go.
Have you heard of the so-called
sorry, this
Hall
is
of
different one.
Death?
We'll get to that one in a second. Where is the other stream? Oh, this is them destroying using. This is a crazy story, right? This is about their 11/11. So 11/11 is November 11th, right? 11/11, big day that they have, online shopping spree day. And so this happened only a couple of weeks ago, right? And I was talking to my dentist the other day about this, because we're talking about Black Friday. She says, isn't it my dentist, sorry, my dental chairside assistant was talking to my dentist, right? They're in their 20s, right? And so she's saying, oh, isn't it interesting how we got Black Friday sales has gotten so big in New Zealand, even though it's an American thing. I said, yeah, that's cool, but like, have you thought that's not that crazy when it comes to sales and stuff and all this? Wait till 11/11 gets here, because that's really very harmful to businesses, local or online, local businesses. Because I mentioned how I couldn't remember Ralph Lauren, the brand name, but I was just saying there was this big brand, this happened to them, and so on. But
On Singles Day, the Ralph Lauren flagship store on Taobao saw a frenzy of shoppers. Thousands of people added items to their carts, including sweaters priced at over $200. Even socks sold out in the last hour of the event. At first, the store celebrated reaching 1.6 billion yuan in sales in China, confident about its top-selling status. But reality set in when a staggering 95% of those orders were returned. It turned out the brand had unknowingly become...
Imagine that. Being in business, and this happens to small businesses as well, right? Small manufacturers as well. You sell 100 things and 95 of them are returned. You've boxed it all up, you've sent them out, and they box them, they just say return to sender. You've lost, freight, right? Because when you send it out, especially if it's China, right, they don't pay freight, right? And like if I buy, this is why I stopped buying. I realized what's going on with with Temu and stuff, right? I was like, well, how come they don't pay any freight, and yet I'm paying freight, like huge freight. Like to send one of my comics out, it's costing me $30 New Zealand. It's like that's $20 US. You send one book out, right? And I'm like, that's just not fair. And I'm like, why should I support a freaking online junk like Temu, who not only treats, our local business people in this way, but not by, undercutting them, but also in turn undercutting the manufacturers as well, right? So look at that, 95% return, $200 million in sales. And they're talking about American dollars, right? Not New Zealand.
Become a tool for shoppers exploiting bulk discount deals. Online, people joked, Ralph Lauren thought it was booming, but it was actually falling apart. The 95% return rate was far beyond the usual 70 to 80% seen in live streaming apparel sales. The chaos stemmed from Taobao's VIP 88 discount campaign. Buyers could save 400 yuan for every 5,000 yuan spent and 120 yuan for every...
This is why you need the tariffs, man. Like, I'm for the tariffs hardcore because of this. Because they have wield so much power, right? Because as you find out, this is one way for the poor to feel like they're empowered, right? And they use this to actually destroy other businesses and other people's lives, basically their own economy. Because like, hey, why should I be miserable, right? They should be miserable too, right? Misery loves company, right? And I'm not, and it's just like that, and this is created by their own society, their own leaders. And it's such a weird way. This is why I like looking at China. I'm like thinking this is what communism does to people's lives, right? Makes them like haters of other people, making them envious and jealous and destructive towards others. And we'll get to how destructive that can be in a minute.
1,500 yuan spent, but the discounts excluded electronics like phones and air conditioners. Shoppers used to spending just a few hundred yuan suddenly had to figure out how to buy thousands worth of items to maximize the discount. Enter social media influencers and live streamers who became self-proclaimed bargain hunting coaches. Ralph Lauren was the perfect target because of its wide range of high-priced items. For orders that needed to reach 7,000 yuan to unlock a 560 yuan discount, Ralph Lauren items were enough to qualify and could be...
Look at that, 560 yuan, right? Which is like around about, I think about $100 or something, discount off the product. So they're like basically gambling with businesses, right? They're not really in there to actually, oh yeah, I want your goods. They're like, how do I get, the best deal? But then again, I'm going to send it back anyway after I feel good. It's basically gambling. It's like gambling with goods, And I mean, I used to like play the pokies, right? The machines, right? So I know what it feels like. Oh yeah, yeah, and then you just keep putting it in. You go, oh yeah, and then you go, and then oh yeah, and then that. And so this is, that whole riding that sort of like thrill, emotional thrill, kind of like drugs, right? Going back to the start, right? With the segue to the start, where like, oh, for that little moment you're feeling good, and then you're down again.
Easily returned afterward. Ironically, some sellers joined the coaching movement. They openly advised buyers, want to save more at our store? Bundle your order with a few Ralph Lauren items, then return them later. That way, pocket 500 to 200 yuan worth of discounts for free. The process was laughably simple. Imagine buying items worth 1,000 yuan and needing to use a 3,000 yuan discount. Just add a 2,000 yuan Ralph Lauren item in your cart, apply the coupon, and return the expensive item once the discount is applied. Ralph Lauren issued refunds without hesitation, and buyers ended up paying just 920 yuan for items originally priced at 1,000. At first glance, Ralph Lauren didn't seem to lose much, only 2 yuan per order in processing fees, but the real damage was to its reputation. A luxury brand became a tool for bargain hunters, tarnishing its high-end image. Worse, its advertising budget, calculated based on the supposed 1.6 billion yuan in sales, went to waste since 95% of those sales evaporated. A Western luxury brand, once a symbol of old money sophistication, became the favorite target for bargain hunters in China. Even screenwriters wouldn't dare to invent such an absurd plot twist. But the drama didn't end there. Just 3 days after the Singles' Day shopping spree, over 20,000 merchants launched a counterattack to defend themselves against these tactics. Couriers, who were supposed to deliver packages, shifted their focus to intercepting returns. Warehouses piled up with returned items, many from exploitative orders. Each return cost merchants shipping fees and insurance, plus a 5 yuan processing fee charged by the platform.
How dare you return an empty package to me? Explain this. My product was worth over 50 yuan, and you send back an empty box? What's going on here? How could it be an empty package? You tell me.
There's also a women's clothing shop owner who received returned yoga pants that were so heavily worn that they had become shiny.
I'm disgusted. I sold yoga pants, clothing meant to be worn close to the body. I've been busy lately, so I didn't check the returns right away. When I finally opened the package, I saw the zipper and crotch area stained with white marks. It's revolting.
The platform's handling of returns added to the merchant's frustration.
I sold an item for nearly 500 yuan, discovered that the buyer requested a refund without returning the product. The platform approved the refund automatically without notifying the seller.
See, this is what Temu does, right? Like I said, they abuse the manufacturer, and they basically ruin the businesses, right? Because they're online. They don't. They're on all the costs are carried by the businesses, not by Temu. And Temu has these horrible tactics that punishes the manufacturer, just like that, right? They already sent the refund to the person without the guy even actually looking at his product and saying, and it's easily exploitable, right? And a lot of businesses that basically, have closed because of it, because they just can't afford to match that.
If I hadn't checked, that 500 yuan would have been gone. This keeps happening. Refunds get processed behind our backs unless we check every single day.
Yesterday, a merchant shared his frustration about a high-priced table and chair set worth 4,000 yuan. A customer requested a refund only due to a few small white spots on the table. Without consulting the seller, the platform immediately refunded the buyer. The merchant was left feeling powerless. Complaints to the platform led to vague promises to escalate the issue, but nothing ever came of it. These refund tactics are hitting businesses hard. One women's clothing store with 7 years of operation and annual sales of 20 million yuan had to shut down right before Singles' Day because it was repeatedly used as a bundle tool. There are just too many unreasonable returns and buyers this year. Honestly, anyone who doesn't request a refund only feels like a good person to me now. Another seller issued a stark warning. Don't even think about opening a shop. Doing e-commerce will shorten your life. Meanwhile, the refund-only scheme has evolved into a precise automated industry. Insiders revealed that these aren't just isolated scams anymore. It's a streamlined operation. Professional teams now handle the process, using automated scripts to search for items priced around 10 to 20 yuan with shipping insurance. Orders are placed and shipped to warehouses near universities. Then refunds are automatically requested. University students, freshly armed with IDs, phone numbers, and bank accounts, are often recruited. They earn 2 to 3 yuan per transaction, which may seem small but adds up quickly with high volume. The teams, on the other hand, profit significantly from the shipping insurance, pocketing
It's basically exploiting manufacturers, hardworking people who are trying to, you know, build a business, run a business, right? And you've got these friggin' cheaters and people who just want to exploit other people. And so they do for a bargain, but they don't even wear it. Like they got, like, did you that's gross. Their pants, like somebody just sent back a pants that wasn't even the yoga pants, right? That they were supposed to send back. They sent their own used pants, worn out. Let me bring up something else. There was this the China show this past Saturday for New Zealand, but Friday, North Hemisphere, right? I think this is the one. Let me just check. Showed a couple videos. I think that's not it. I will get to that one soon. But there was yeah, it was this is it the most dangerous? Where is it? Right. So there's it's I timed it and I time it again for a second one. Let me just go. I mean, I put like a time code on it on my saved link. Just making sure it's the right one. This is for what they're teaching kids because of the dangers that are around them that they're not even aware of in China right now. Let me see where you. I forgot to turn my VPN on, so it's like taking forever to come on, pop on. Come on, buddy. See, I'll turn off the other windows while I'm at this. Notice that sort of slows it down. Now, where are you? Are you there? Yeah, here we go. So it's 2020, and then it's at 39. So what was the number there? 2022, 20 minutes, 22 minutes in. Yeah, 22 minutes and 18. Sorry, I just realized I haven't got this on screen, but here's the link for the rest of the show, and it's like crazy. And this is, the China show. And these guys are pretty cool. They've actually lived there, right? And let me bring that screen up. And that one? Was it earlier? No, I think that's the second one. Here we go. So 2022 is the next one. But here's the earlier, right? Right. This is real. Let me do a little. And these kids don't know why they're being taught this, right?
Something that's now a common thing in China. We wanted to show you this.
This is insane.
Okay, so we get out of here so you can see.
I translated this so you guys can just read the subtitles.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to pause it.
No.
如果一辆车疯狂的在朝我行驶，那我马上趴在地上，能成功吗？不能成功。可不可以这样做？不可以。为什么？转弯会压到我们，跳起来 让车从我的身下开过去，然后我再落地，这样可以吗？为什么不可以啊？你跳得不够高，所以你跳起来的结果是会被车直接撞得飞起来更远，更加危险，不能做。那么我转头疯狂的跑吧，逃离吧，可以吗？啊，因为车比我们的速度要更快，对吗？我们接下来让这辆车。
So basically, this is a Chinese fireman teaching a class of students, right? A group of kids, minors. The oldest I can see there is amongst the kids probably about 12-year-old, right? Dude on the orange shirt, and then down to like probably like a 5, 6-year-old. You know, and there's they're in what looks like it's basically an indoor car park with like for teaching fire safety and all that, like crossing the road and stuff, like you can see here, traffic lights and so on. Basically, a safety tutorial. But what they're teaching the kids is when a car's coming towards you, how to get out of the way. But the kids don't know why he's teaching them that. And we'll see why later.
所以我试一下，我看到车了，我向一侧跑。如果这辆车它向我冲撞，目标是我的话，它改变方向的速度仍然比我跑的速度要快。那么正确的怎么样的？当这辆车向我疯狂的行驶，准备向我撞击的时候，注意看我要怎么做。注意看。
Hold on, I will read this title something. So if a crazy driver is coming at me, I will immediately fall to the ground. Will that work? The kids ask. No, it won't. Can you do that? No. Why? Because they'll run us over. Jump over the car, he says. Can I do that? The kids go, no, he says. Why not? If you jump, it won't move. If you'll get hit by the car and fly even further, even more dangerous. Don't do that. Can I turn around and walk away? He says, away from the car. No, right? Because the car is faster than us. Let's let a car come at me and try to hit me. When I see the car, I run this way. If this car wants to hit me, if that's his goal, he can change his direction and still be faster than me. Right? So what's the correct situation? So the car will come at me. Look at what I do. That's what he's telling the kids. Look carefully. Run past the rear of the car. So basically get behind it. Try to get behind the back of the car. And then the kids, he's showing the kids how to do it. All right, get out of the way and get around the car. Right.
This is obviously, they're at the fire station / police / safety course for the kids, but they are being told how to avoid murderous drivers that are trying to run you over.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, we learned traffic safety, right? And it's like, look right, left, right again, before you cross the road, how to obey the street signs and that type of thing. Not if a guy's trying to run you over, what do you do?
Right. And then all the scenarios about like, no, if you do this, he will, if his goal is to kill you, then he's still gonna kill you.
Yeah, exactly.
You're having to teach this to kids.
Little kids.
You know what the craziest thing about this is this has become such an insane problem in China, such a pervasive problem. In fact, a daily problem. That there are mass killings and mass attacks with vehicles every single day. I said this in something I was working on.
When I said earlier, like how people were like exploiting and how like the poor and just people, are so angry or so upset at their situation in life, they act out and they they try to stop other people from living their lives or being alive, right? Or trying to make their day worse, right? Because their life is in misery. But rather than working through what's making them miserable, and what's making them upset or depressed, they turn that anger and frustration towards others. And so what's happening in China on a daily, as you heard, right? On a daily basis, like every day, is you got people driving their cars into people in the street. Now, I think it's 22. Was it the one? I think I had a 22, but I might be wrong. Let me just. Or was it later? Or was it 33? It might be. Let's have a look at this, and then I think it might be 33. Well, what's this one? I think it's just coming up after that. But like, yeah. So just imagine, you know how big it was in Boston when that happened, right? At Christmas time. Was it last year or the year before? And it was news all around the world. Like even I, saw it, how crazy that was when that guy did that. Yet that was so random, right? And it was huge. But this is happening. That thing is happening. These attacks are happening daily in China. Imagine you're just going there from overseas to just visit, and you're going, tourists, going shopping, with your friend, with your family, and next thing,
that were commenting on this particular incident were saying, at least let the snow come so they can blame it on like heavy snow.
Yeah, so the Chinese
sorry,
netizens
this
were
is
like,
one. This is not the one. This is about another one. Might come back to that, but I mean, you guys can watch the rest of the show. Like they do amazing. Like these guys have lived there for about a decade in China, so they know what they're talking about. So it's still with the snow one roof.
he's trying to fight.
Oh, right. So that was. We'll come back to that one about Japan. How much they hate Japan, right? But I don't want to watch. Take everything from these guys' show. But remember, so going back to the kids, right, and going back to the cars. And here we go.
Exactly. Anyway,
so Chengdu, just last week, was that 10 days ago? Yeah, 10 days ago, 11 days ago. But this is, this is from last week. That the show's from last week. So we're Wednesday, it's Tuesday today. So about 5 days ago, whatever.
In Hunan, okay, the next day, November 19th.
I don't think we have any more.
So the same day.
I don't think we have any more like nice, not nice, but like not horrible stuff.
I censored everything. Okay.
Yeah.
This is horrific. You can see this is a middle school, and they're all crowded. You can see the massive crowd up there. They're all crowded getting into the school, and we had a revenge against society attack. I have blocked it out, blurred it out.
What he means revenge against society is like the same thing I was saying, right? The society for these, China is so bad for people now, right? Because that whole misery. I mean, everybody like in the West, like especially people on the left, always going about how like communism just hasn't been done right. Every time it's been tried, it's always, it hasn't been done right. It's like because it's being tried the right way, right? That's why it's always ended up that way, because that's how communism works. Because there's always going to be, the whole thing is set up that you need leaders who can do whatever they want with the people below them, because nobody has rights. And so these people have no rights. And so they decide to take out their frustrations at having no rights and having a miserable life and having the steel boot of communism on your throat and head constantly, right? And squeezing on your throat to a point where you just give up and decide to punish everybody else for it. Innocent children, bystanders, parents, anybody. And this is a school. This is a school. Just kids at school. And this is only one of them.
beggar there.
Yeah, there was a beggar.
Isn't this horrifying?
Kids
Yeah,
are
so
running.
basically,
Kids are screaming help. By the
yeah,
way.
they're screaming help. A car actually drove through a crowd, knocked down a whole bunch of students, actually knocked the bollards out of the way. You saw there were bollards there, did a U-turn, went back the way.
Barriers. They have this whole thing about bollards. What are bollards and barriers, right? So there's barriers like metal, like concrete blocks to stop cars from going, into areas. Like, you have like those things, steel beams in front of banks to stop people ram raiding. That's what they call it in New Zealand, ram raiding, into stores and stuff.
This is happening all over the country. Remember that map we showed
Yeah.
you?
Now you're wondering
All
why they
over.
have those, PSAs on how to avoid a car. It's because it's happening, because it's
all
real.
over the place.
Absolutely horrific. Yeah. I suppose a silver lining is, obviously I had to watch all this footage and get all this material. There's one silver lining here is that the crowd ripped the guy out of the car and beat the absolute shit out of him.
Nice.
So, like,
Nice. That's
that's
good.
the one silver
Wish we
lining.
could have showed that.
Yeah, I would have loved to have shown that. Yeah.
Isn't that
Anyway.
insane though.
So that's
Yeah.
19.
Don't
This
take
is
that
21.
lightly. That was a car on purpose trying to run over children.
Yeah,
at
middle
school.
school children.
And that's the thing, right? Children are slow because they got small legs. How the hell? And plus, their brain isn't reacting, and to like why. You basically, you're questioning why is this happening, and by in that moment you're already hit, right? And you're watching your friends, right, or your siblings being run over by a person in their right mind. Because I hate the fact that people go, oh, it's insane or crazy or mental health issues. No. The guy's behind the car on purpose doing this, right?
Children, yeah. This is unfortunate. Anyway, I covered in a video of mine, and recently you all know about this massive attack that happened in Zhuhai around that sports stadium. Remember? Where like 35 people were instantly killed and another 40 something were injured, whatever. Like it's probably more, but it was a massive thing.
Yeah.
The next day in Zhuhai, there was another car attack, which we're not going to cover here. But there's something interesting that I did want to show everybody, is that on the 21st, people were posting photos of this. Now, along the main coastal stretch, you've been there, I've been there many times, they're now erecting bollards, right?
Everyone in the
barriers, right? That's what I was talking about. Like, but so that rather than trying to deal with the problem in society that's causing that, they just put up barriers, a facade, right? Basically, it's a facade to stop it from happening, right? It's like putting the ambulance at the top of the hill when it's needed at the bottom of the hill, right?
Chat was saying, "What the f is a bollard?"
That's a bollard.
Now,
You don't know?
I think most people don't know what a bollard.
What do you? Like a man looks like a post.
Yeah.
Don't leave your
Anyway,
post.
let's go. Let's go. A barrier. We say barrier.
You say a
That's right.
barrier?
Yes, barricade and barrier. That's right.
But a barrier, it implies
Dude, there's
that
no
it's
argument here.
Okay, all right.
You're arguing against the
All
audience.
right.
Didn't know what you're saying.
Maybe people can learn. Okay, sorry. So as you can see, they've put bollards, and they obviously haven't finished yet because you can see there's still a little bit of something sticking out.
Yeah.
But they put bollards all the way down the
It's a live stream show, right? That's why they were like talking about the chat says this.
sidewalks
Right.
on the main stretches, and they have people patrolling with those, anti-knife attack.
As we
things.
saw, isn't this all coming together now? We
Yeah.
showed you all the training with the
Yeah,
horrible
yeah,
whooping.
whatever. Woof, woof. Okay. This is now in Zhuhai, and obviously as a response to the massive amount of attacks.
Yeah.
And again, it just shows you that it's not, they keep saying it's an isolated incident. The freaking foreign ministry said it was an isolated incident, but it's okay because no foreigners were hurt. Remember?
Yes.
How
is it an isolated incident when we just showed you a map of where it happened all in 1 week, every day?
Not only that, but they're doing training for kids to get away from it, and they're erecting bollards. Okay.
Yeah.
And having patrols.
Yes.
If it was an isolated incident, then it's not going to happen again.
I'll tell you what.
What?
If it was an isolated incident, you wouldn't have just seen that clip of a man running over children.
Yeah, exactly. It's
You know?
ridiculous.
And the other billion times we're going to show you it happened in 1 week.
Yeah, well, let's see what happens the next time. Okay, the 22nd of November in
Remember, guys,
Yangzhou.
isolated incident.
Yeah, in Jiangsu. Let's see. We had another guy in a car drive over a bunch of pedestrians at a crosswalk. A zebra crossing. No?
Like you're just crossing the road. Why would you want to go to a freaking country like that? That randomly every day these things happen, right? Because communism has destroyed these people's lives and minds. That they're so distraught, right? Whatever, you know, that they only thing they get pleasure out of is destroying other people's lives. And they talk about the knife things. There are so many stabbings of people in China and kids. It's just like, you know, if you look at that whole one kid policy has basically ruined people's lives, their families' lives, and parents are basically, you know, offing off the other kids' families. I mean, the other families' kids as well in retaliation.
On purpose, yeah. Next, Foshan, Guangdong, way far away, super far away from there, on the same day. What do we have? There's people at the crosswalk. Here comes a car, drives into them, smack, hits a whole bunch of people. Okay, Shangtan, this one is rough. In Shangtan, you know about Shangtan, don't you?
This is where Chairman Mao's from.
Yeah, it's pretty famous.
And ironically, the foreign ministry spokesperson, Mao Ning.
Yes.
So the person that keeps saying this is an isolated incident.
Mhm.
It's ironic.
This also was on the 20th. 3 of these incidents on the same day. This one is a busy morning market, you know, where people go to buy, you know, you can see the crowds, people are buying this stuff.
So it's a lot of people in one space.
Yeah, you go there to get your fruit and your vegetable in the morning and whatever else, your fresh food. But then, you know, here comes
It's a whole. These are families.
Here comes a truck.
By
yeah,
20.
You see it? The guy just drove through people.
And died.
Yeah,
officially.
Yeah, officially.
I believe the government. I don't know if this is the one. The government said the local government and the police said that he was sick.
No,
that he was sick.
No.
It's a whole.
Look,
these are families.
Here comes a
Look at
truck.
that. All those people are just there.
Yeah.
What?
27 people were hit.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
10 of them died.
yeah.
Officially.
Yeah, officially.
And dead.
I believe the government. I don't know if this is the one. The government said the local government and the police said that he was sick.
No, that was about this next
Oh,
one.
was the next one. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, about that guy. Who knows? They'll make up some excuse.
But here's the other thing. That happened in Israel as well. A dude ran over a whole lot of elderly people, smashed into a bus on purpose. Just the other week.
This particular
This is not insane. That
This
this
is
is
20
every
the
day.
25th. Yeah.
Oh, he was Arab, by the way. Ran into a whole lot of elderly Jews in a bus going to shopping and, you know, morning shopping or grocery shopping and stuff.
It is. It's every day. You see the bus in
Oh,
front of
by
us?
the way, this is only the ones caught on camera,
Yes, yeah.
not the ones not caught on camera.
Yeah, and there were more, okay?
Yeah.
We don't have a whole day here. See the bus up there above my head? Goes through a bunch of people in the crosswalk. Yeah, it was a bad one too. I didn't show any of the aftermath. I didn't show any of the other clips. Yeah, that was a really bad one. That one, they said the driver was sick.
Isolated incident. Driver is sick. What's next?
Yeah.
What's next?
Yep. This is in.
Oh, I have a cold. Let me run over 40 people.
You know what he needs to do?
Jeff, take the pills,
Seriously though, and we're trying to make light of this because
Yeah.
it's so depressing.
It's horrible.
That's not an excuse. This is a copycat attack, and it's happening every day. Clearly, it's someone doing it on purpose.
Yeah, every
right?
single time.
Gee, there's a pattern of events, and hundreds of people keep getting run over every single week in our country. I wonder if there's a different excuse for every single circumstance.
Yeah, because I mean, you could excuse away a few,
Yeah.
Anyway, next day in Lanzhou and Gansu, November 26th. Again, we have a car here. He deliberately speeds up
purpose
and
to run
runs
people
over pedestrians.
See how it's on purpose?
Yeah. Here as well. Bunch of people at a crosswalk, car. Whack, smacks them over.
This is happening every day across the entire country.
From the 19th
I just
to the
can't reiterate that
27th,
enough.
1 week.
It's insane.
And there are more. And of course, like I said, I just didn't want to show them all. And look, it's a disturbing thing. It's horrible. I hate looking this stuff up. I
Communism.
hate putting these compilations together.
Leftist
and
dream.
I censored them specifically. And I didn't show the terrible clips because it's rough. Anyway, this is not something about running over here. So we get a break from that now.
But
Okay.
it's maybe worse.
Chongqing, China. You know, China's 3,000 years in the future city. The next.
So one more video, because I've got tons of them, but like, you know, we're in 2 hours at the moment, and I don't want to really, you know, depress us all out. But check this out. This is the elderly traveling overseas from China. Middle age, upper middle age. This is called, you know, and this is from 6 days ago. The Chinese behaving badly overseas. Elderly Chinese behaving badly overseas, as well as middle-aged, you know, those who can't get over.
From cultural icon to global nightmare, what is happening to Chinese ants? They used to be just ordinary middle-aged women attached to the traditional image of China. But today the term Chinese ant has gone beyond its original meaning. It is no longer simply a name, but has become a symbol of a series of controversial behaviors. From dancing in public squares day and night, jostling during sales, to fighting, arguing, and even public conflicts. The problem does not stop at borders. With the development of the internet and social media, the image of Chinese aunts has spread globally, becoming a topic of discussion in international media. From a normal title, they have gradually become an annoying and headache-inducing symbol for many people around the world. But what really makes this phrase notorious? The answer may begin with a shocking incident involving Virgin Cruises, a luxury cruise line that invested more than $1 billion to design a ship specifically for Chinese customers, from its oriental architecture to its Chinese language signage. But after a short time, Virgin Cruises abruptly withdrew from the market, leaving many big questions. The main reason, the puzzling behavior of some Chinese aunties on this luxury. Seemingly small actions turned many people.
Imagine, like I said, stereotypes, right? I'm going to reiterate that. Stereotypes are real. Imagine building a ship, especially from the ground up, for the Chinese market. It's not a small feat, right? Hundreds, you know, probably 50,000, whatever. I don't know what the percentage thing was before it, but a lot, right? Because you can just see them. Look, and just in that one shot, there's so many. It's like about 50 people or so, 40, right? Just in that area. But like you got the entire show. Spending all that money, all that design, engineering, outfitting it with all that stuff that makes them feel at home. Because remember, you're specifically doing it for that customer. So you're designing every single facet of that ship to be pleasing to them, right? No other people have that done for them, right? It's what's happening in Europe with Muslims, right? We're going to change our society for Islam, right? We're going to change our speech laws, our laws to make it easier for you people to integrate, rather than how about you people learn to integrate into our society, right? So imagine spending, I mean, it's not like a small fee, like I said, it's millions, tens of millions of dollars for Virgin to make that ship. I mean, it looks crazy, right? Check that out. Look at it. Valiant Lady is the name of it. And so the Valiant aunties, well, females, basically destroy it to a point where they leave. So this whole thing made for them, right, for the Chinese market, yet Virgin decides, shit, we made a huge mistake trying to cater to these people. Basically, like, when people cater to woke people and they expect them to like buy all the products and stuff, and turns out they don't buy. Right? They just vocal about it. They don't really spend the money. It's like with comics, right? Where they make everybody gay, yet nobody really goes and or people sitting around drinking coffee, which isn't that bad as long as there's a story there, right? But but it's not what people want to read, and the content is basically aimed at males, right? 70% of readers of comics are males, and they just want to, action-packed story that's interesting, right? Not somebody's sexuality, because that's boring as shit. I find that boring as shit. I don't watch anime like we just showed you Monster to see what is Temna's sexual preferences. Didn't even think about it. It's a damn good story, damn good anime. Won awards, one of the best, serials, right? 75 episodes, not fantasy, just slice of life drama, psychological thriller. But here you got people, you got a major company like Virgin Pacific. I think they call it Pacific. I'm not sure, but Virgin, right? Airlines and all that. They built this multi-million-dollar ship just to cater to these people, and then to find out they're horrible. They don't appreciate it, and so that ship's just going to waste. Now they're going to have to refit it for other people, right? The normal, non-crazy people.
From the market, leaving many big questions. The reason is the puzzling behavior of some Chinese aunties on this luxury ship. Seemingly small actions turned many people's dream trip into a nightmare experience. And this is not the only story in the video. Today, we will explore what makes the phrase Chinese aunties so infamous, why the behavior of some people can seriously affect the whole industry, and what lessons can be learned for international businesses when approaching this market. Free buffet disaster, when luxury turns into a nightmare. Imagine you are stepping on a luxury cruise ship with expectations of blue seas and classy buffets, but instead you are caught up in a chaotic scene like...
Look at that. They don't want to eat it all. Most of it will be thrown out. Because, I mean, I've seen that. Here, like, it's what we have a saying for that. It's like, your eyes are bigger than your stomach. In New Zealand, that's the saying we have in New Zealand. No, like when I'm at a buffet or anything, I just go and get a little bit, go back, eat it, because I have a small stomach anyway, so I've got to make sure that I'm of the type that I don't waste food, and even when I do, I feel bad that I've wasted food, right? I usually, like, even if there's this much food left over on my plate when I'm at home, I even when I'm out, I'll take it, bring it home, right? And freeze it or whatever. Or even like if I'm eating at home, I've got containers and I'll just put it in the fridge and I'll just have it with the next day or whatever, or I'll freeze it. But the amount of wastage here is like, because obviously that lady can't eat 2 plates of chicken, fried chicken, right? But communism has taught them that if they don't have food in their hands now, they'll never have it. Right? If they don't eat now, they won't have it.
Like a zombie war, where wasteful fighting takes place before your eyes.
Look at that.
That's exactly what happened on a luxury cruise ship, where Chinese aunties became the center of chaos. Breakfast chaos when the buffet turned into a battlefield. Breakfast started at 7 a.m., but many Chinese aunties had gathered in line since before 6 a.m. They not only waited, but also banged on the door, complaining that the restaurant had not opened yet, turning the originally fresh morning atmosphere into tension from the start.
Talking about which, the other day, like, here, there's a toy sale. The doors were supposed to open at about, I think it was 8:30 or 7:30. 8:30. So I got there around about 8, but the door people had gotten there by 5:30, and so that the business, the auction place, opened the doors to people who had gotten there at that time early. Even like by the time I got there, there were already people gone through and were coming out, and I'm like, this is not the way to run these things. Who cares if they came early? You told everybody else online that you're going to open at 8:30, right? And now I've got to, because I have a cane, and so I'm standing there for an hour and a half to 2 hours waiting to get in, whereas people have already gotten out. A whole lot of them, even before I got there, at half an hour before opening time, and we're all lined up. But these people, because they got early, so they got to get preferential treatment. Imagine that. I mean, have you ever been in a situation where you're in line, but then somebody cuts in, and yet they still get served, right? You feel so aggravated. But so here these guys turn up an hour early for something, and then they demand it, right? Why aren't you ready? It's like, well, because we're still cooking the damn food, right? I mean, all the signs are in Chinese, Mandarin or Cantonese, right? So you can read them, right?
As soon as the restaurant door opened, the crowd rushed into the narrow entrance, being squeezed to the point of suffocation. The barriers were knocked down, and the restaurant staff could only helplessly call out, "Please pay attention to safety. Please line up in order." But that did not change anything.
It's like animals,
Inside, the
man.
chaos escalated. These aunties took food not according to demand, but seemed to be collecting spoils. The plates of shrimp, bread, and milk were quickly cleared, regardless of whether they had actually finished them or not. Some people lined up and ate, even using chopsticks to pick up food right in the processing area, making many people around them feel bored. From waste to conflict, breakfast, or the nightmare of standing in front of free things. The instinct of not taking is a waste, not taking advantage of cheap things is a loss, of the passengers was strongly demonstrated.
That's ingrained from them due to their days of starvation period, because socialism and communism, how he basically took all the farmers off the land, and people who were business people and people who were in factories to till the land, and they had no idea how to farm the land, when seeds get germinated, when they need to be replanted, when the seedlings need to move to another area, right? How much water you need to put on them, fertilizer, right? When they need to be picked, right? How to stop them, how to get them pollinated, right? If there's no bees around, or how to cut, pick them for crop, and which ones you don't, right? And how to save seeds so you can replant. All this was taken from them, so they starved. Something like about 60 million people starved. And so this is the children from that era who are now aged, elderly and middle-aged. And so, like she said, if you don't have it, this is this part here. Right.
Of the passengers was strongly demonstrated during the journey that lasted only 5 days. The Joyce ship recorded a huge amount of food consumption. Breakfast, nightmare of standing in front of free things. The instinct of Not taking is a waste. Not taking advantage of cheap things is a loss. Of the passengers was strongly demonstrated during the journey that lasted only 5 days. The Joyce ship recorded a huge amount of food consumption. 60 tons of meat, more than 20 tons of fish, 7 tons of watermelon, 1 ton of bananas, 11 tons of potatoes, and 52,000 eggs. The ship, with 1,925 rooms and a maximum capacity of 4,930 people, witnessed an astonishing...
So 4,920 people. So, because the rest would be like, staff members, right? So maybe, they probably thinked up for about 1,000 or 5,000 people all up, because you need at least 1,000 people to, well, maybe not 1,000, but enough people to run run everything, stuff, I mean.
Astonishing average consumption. 2.4 kilograms of meat per day per passenger, not including fish.
2.2. Even the idea of like 2 kilograms of meat per person. Dude. Like, my average intake is like 250 grams maybe of meat a day. If that, depending on what it, if I'm having chicken or if I'm having beef, and I don't need to eat that much. I've got, the steak there, but I don't like cooking it. Lamb or pork or sausages, whatever. But that's 2 kilograms.
Vegetables, and drinks. In comparison, other Virgin ships usually consume just over 10 tons of food per trip. But the number on the Joy is 3 to 4 times higher. This,
which basically means that 2 times of wastage by these people. Because remember, you can't consume that much food. There's only so big your stomach is. Like I said, their eyes are bigger than their stomach. And just the whole society being taught and raised on communist principles of starvation, right? End goal being starvation and control. Because it's an easy way to control people, is starve them, make them, do what you want them to do if they're reliant upon you.
This difference comes not only from the size of the ship, but also reflects a unique mentality of the passengers on board. Everything free is a spoil that cannot be missed. Taking a lot of food but not finishing it, they are willing to throw away bread, eggs, and whole bottles of milk without hesitation. A blogger recorded the image of restaurant staff cleaning the table with helpless faces, facing the huge amount of wasted food. On the first day, the staff still served enthusiastically, but on the third day, their eyes were filled with fatigue and frustration. The blogger shared that the scene in the restaurant was even worse when there were fights and arguments just because people wanted to cut in line. Some people even threw milk or water on each other, and the tense atmosphere made many other passengers lose all sense of enjoyment. The Chinese aunties who had just been arguing fiercely in the restaurant were just minutes later joining in on the train in a chorus of joy and square dancing. The luxurious crystal staircases, the highlight of the train, quickly turned into a makeshift stage where they sang and danced loudly, much to the annoyance of other passengers. The sound was so loud that it seemed to move the entire train, and the public space became packed with people, severely affecting the experience of other passengers. A young passenger shared, "Every step on the train was a nightmare. It was only a few days, but the fatigue was unbearable. From queuing for food to finding a seat, thanked me."
And looking forward to a luxury trip, maybe of a lifetime, and seeing that and going, I will never go on another trip again on Virgin, Virgin brand, whatever, or not only that, like I said, stereotypes, like making sure that they're, maybe not even going on trips that have Asians on it, because Chinese on it, because people do get that way, right? Like I said, stereotypes. People sometimes take that on board majorly, and that's where like racism starts, because if you have people of certain races behaving, ethnicities behaving a certain way, people kind of get their defenses up, and they're like, oh yeah, they're like that. I noticed that myself there about me. I realized that I was behaving badly because I was so annoyed at the for waiting because my feet were hurting like hell. Like I was moving from side to side because I use a cane, and my heels were like burning and just in pain. And by the time I got in to the auction place, right, and I said like, I went to the guy who was waiting because I was letting people in. I said, tell me where your Batman toys are, because that's all I'm here for. Because I was just going to get Batman. And then I end up like, I said, okay, well, where's your Legos? He goes, oh, it's over there in the middle. So, okay, cool. So I made a V line to that, and I went quickly rushed through, and oh yeah, that's what I want. Okay, good. All right, I was only going to spend $50. I ended up spending 160, right? Because oh yeah, might as well get it. Then I can get some Christmas presents, figure out at home what I want to give away, what I want to keep, and then like but after that, probably about 3 minutes in there, and I was out. I was just like, and then we had to line up for about another 40 minutes by the time we got to the cashier to get out of there. And so like it was like what I thought would be like a half an hour day trip turned into like a 3-hour thing. But I looked back at one time, because I'm a chatty person when I get because I'm like as you can see, I talk a lot. So I'm a chatty person. So I'm staying there, and I'm talking to the folks there, around me, like other people my age. So he's saying, how's the day going? What's going? Oh, look, what's your interest? Maybe I'll keep an eye out for something, because that's the way I am, right? So, Harry Potter. I saw Harry Potter before earlier, right? Because I'm not into Harry Potter, but I saw some Harry Potter stuff there. Or Matchbox. Okay, they're over there. And then this young Chinese family came in. Not young, say 40s, right? And then like 3 young kids, because they have them. The mom's I realized like the dad's in his 50s, and mom's in her 30s, and the kids are in there like around 10, right? Minors. And then the mom's going, really loud, like, come and get this kids. And I'm like, holy shit, that was just me before, rushing through that like this. And I'm like, holy, and then I realized that I was just like her, because I was just trying to get out of there, right? Because I was like quickly going through there, trying to think, and I realized other people were probably looking at me just like that. And I was like, oh shit, I gotta be careful next time when I'm trying to just get, because I'm tired, I'm sore on my heels. I just want to get the hell out of here as quickly to the cashier and pay for my stuff and leave, because I got their taxi because I don't drive or have a car because body. And so and I've owned about 3-4 cars in my lifetime, right? And then then I rang up my taxi driver, and he came to pick me up and brought me home again. But I realized my behavior was wrong, even though I was just trying to get it done and out of people's way so people could come in behind me. And it's just crazy. Like, I mean, and realizing, these people would probably have a stereotype of me, like, damn, look at that Indian, like, doing that, because or maybe they're getting annoyed because I'm talking so much, because I'm tired, because I hadn't slept all night, plus I'm sore, because people don't really know what's going on with you. They only see your output, right? Whatever expression you're giving them, and so I think it's just I'm becoming more, that made me become really self-conscious, about myself and my behavior.
The real reason why the Joy left the Chinese market. Initially, the Joy was expected to become a symbol of luxury and success in the Chinese tourism market. But after a short time, the Joy had to withdraw from this potential market and switch to operating in the US, specifically Alaska. So what really caused the billion-dollar ship to leave?
Wow.
One of the biggest problems with the Joy.
So this is a different ship. So that was like the Virgin Pacific, made specially for them. So if that's $1 billion ship, the Virgin would have been like $1 billion ship as well, right? So now they're not going to do they're not going to do China, and like these guys aren't going to catering to Chinese customers. Now they've gone to friggin' North America because of culture, right? Like it's got to get culture shocked.
Was the low spending of Chinese tourists, something the ship's management did not anticipate. According to data from other international cruise ships, at least 50,000 bottles of beer are consumed each week, but on the Joy, this number was less than 50 bottles. Wine and white wine.
50,000 by Westerners, 50 bottle by Chinese. That's a huge loss, like alone just on that one aspect, right? You can see, like, because Westerners, they see it like I said, you want to go on a trip, like my parents, I think my mom went on a ship, and you go and do that because you just want to have this one lifetime trip, and you want to enjoy it. You want to have just feel great. I mean, when I go to overseas to Fiji, it doesn't seem like that far away, but for me, it's like I want to take in as much as I can out of it. Visit all the places that I didn't go the last time. Go visit all the family, buy stuff that I can't get here or can't get cheap here, or just party up because it's cheaper. Because it's just with family, friends, cousins, just hang out, have a beer. I think I'd consume more beer in Fiji than I do in New Zealand. Like I probably drink about a year's worth of liquor in Fiji than beer than I do in New Zealand, because it's so hot, and plus it's cheap, right? And to have $1 billion ship, because the whole point of that is you produce a vehicle to get passengers on, so that you can recuperate that investment. How do you do that when you do it when the Chinese only buy 50 bottles of liquor?
Which are the favorite choices of international guests, had an even lower consumption rate. Not only drinks, but high-end services such as the behind-the-scenes tours. Wine and white wine, which are the favorite choices of international guests, had an even lower consumption rate. Not only drinks, but high-end services such as the behind-the-scenes tour, $76 per person, which attracts hundreds of guests on other ships, received almost no attention on the Joy. In the end, the management was forced to reduce the ticket price to just $48 and offer free photo opportunities to attract customers. Although the somewhat different consumer behavior of Chinese tourists was not a direct factor leading to the failure of the Joy.
You can see how, it ties into the other video about how they return goods, right? How they're so cheap that they'll go out and they'll just play with people's, businesses, right? It's like, yeah, we're coming on, we're gonna do this and do that. It's like the Westerners just don't understand the Chinese communist mindset, because of how their wiring has been, changed so much over generations of decades of being indoctrinated with that communism and socialist mindset. It's like just the virus is it's so deep in them, right? Because of the way they've been treated by their leaders, the CCP, right?
Joy, the low price strategy was the core problem. Tickets started at 194 yuan, about $27, for a 5-day cruise that included meals, accommodation, and entertainment, which is no different from a mid-range hotel. However, for a ship with
$25 for a couple of days, it's awesome. That's
the most lavish investment, this price was not enough to offset the huge operating costs. Even when the additional services were fully utilized, The data also showed that the cost of food on board accounted for only 3.7% of the total operating costs. But the bigger problem was the failure to maximize revenue from other services. The Joy failed not because travelers weren't spending, but because the company chose the wrong customer segmentation and market pricing strategy. In an effort to appeal to the Chinese market, where customers value practicality over luxury experiences, the Joy cut ticket prices to the lowest possible level, but that trade-off was not enough to sustain long-term operations. As a result, the ship was forced to abandon this market, leaving a valuable lesson for businesses looking to enter China. Don't just look at the market potential, understand customer behavior and expectations. New nightmare as airports become stages for Chinese aunties. A viral video from Don Mueang International Airport in Bangkok, Thailand, has caused a stir in public opinion. In the video, a group of Chinese aunties
It's
perform.
like they basically behave like they do at home everywhere, right? And it's like, this is, it's like I said, this is how stereotypes start, but like, it's not stereotypes, it's reality. And it's sad because these people have been raised a certain way in their culture to behave this way because that's how their leaders have treated them to this point, right? To be miserable, to treat other people a certain way because of their leadership, under the communist regime. And it's kind of, like I said, it's sad. It's not something that I, to laugh about or anything. It's like the whole idea, like these people are also running over children in retaliation against the way their leadership is treating them, right? Now, I wanted to leave you guys with something pretty cool. And it's Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean, and he talks about speech. And we're about almost 2.5 hours. Wow.
My starting point when it comes to the...
This is in full, and this is 9 minutes long. So, but Mr. Rowan Atkinson's awesome. Like, I always think of my little brother David when I think of him because it's just the way he looks, and just as intelligent, right? And he's the youngest now out of our 6 of us. We have a blended family. So, and this is from a channel called In Defense of Defend Free Speech, right? And this is like 6 years ago, and this is what's really causing problems with Islam, trying to make it like bring on like anti-blasphemy laws, right? So basically changing British society to put up with indoctrination from Islam and from this religion, but not the other way around. So the people have to control their speech because someone else will get offended, but not, they should control, maybe not go there because it's a freedom-loving country that loves free speech, that loves to, speak their mind, and tell you exactly what they think if you feel, about you or about, like everybody, Westerns, that's what we do, right? What we see, if we don't like it, we tell you. And then if we don't like your religion and we don't think it's good for our society, and we tell you. But, they don't like that, but they still want to come, right? They still want to come into the West and think. So this is from 6 years ago, and he was so ahead of, because, he's smart, right? Intelligent. So this is worth listening to. And it's, like I said, it's 9 minutes long, and I'm going to finish off here and I'm going to let this play out. But thank you. If this is your first time on my, viewing my content on my channel, this is basically what I do now, right? Try to entertain you, try to inform you. Hopefully you look at the other parts of the videos that I haven't shown, and you can find, look into it yourself, and do give us channels a follow and, sub to them, as well as sub to my channel, right, and give me a follow, so you can get the notifications when when the next live stream comes out, or the clip or video comes out. So wherever you are, thank you for hanging out with me today, and leave me a comment. Let me know if you're enjoying the content or not. But also, wherever you are, man, have an awesome day, have an awesome week, and hope everything is going well in your life, and that learn more, do something creative, and learn from our people around you. Apologies. Sounds like my dentist is calling to sort out another appointment. But thank you, guys. I'll catch you next round. But do enjoy this video. Let me know what you thought about today's. Leave a comment what you thought about today's live stream content. Thank you. Catch you later.
My starting point when it comes to the consideration of any issue relating to free speech is my passionate belief that the second most precious thing in life is the right to express yourself freely. The most precious thing in life, I think, is food in your mouth. And the third most precious is a roof over your head. But a fixture for me in the number 2 slot is free expression, just below the need to sustain life itself. That is because I have enjoyed free expression in this country all my professional life, and fully expect to continue to do so. Personally, I suspect highly unlikely to be arrested for whatever laws exist to contain free expression, because of the undoubtedly privileged position that is afforded to those of a high public profile. So my concerns are less for myself and more for those more vulnerable because of their lower profile. Like the man arrested in Oxford for calling a police horse gay, or the teenager arrested for calling the Church of Scientology a cult, or the cafe owner arrested for displaying passages from the Bible on a TV screen. When I heard of some of these more ludicrous offenses and charges, I remembered that I had been here before in a fictional context. I once did a show called Not the 9 O'Clock News some years ago, and we did a sketch where Griff Rhys-Jones played Constable Savage, a manifestly racist police officer to whom I, as his station commander, is giving a dressing down for arresting a black man on a whole string of ridiculous, trumped up and ludicrous charges. The charges for which Constable Savage arrested Mr. Winston Kadogo of 55 Mercer Road were these: walking on the cracks in the pavement, walking in a loud shirt in a built-up area during the hours of darkness, and one of my favorites, walking around all over the place. He was also arrested for urinating in a public convenience and looking at me in a funny way. Who would have thought that we would end up with a law that would allow life to imitate art so exactly? I read somewhere a defender of the status quo claiming that the fact that the gay horse case was dropped after the arrested man refused to pay the fine, and that the Scientology case was also dropped at some point during the court process, was proof that the law was working well, ignoring the fact that the only reason these cases were dropped was because of the publicity that they had attracted. The police sensed that ridicule was just around the corner and withdrew their actions. But what about the thousands of other cases that did not enjoy the oxygen of publicity, that weren't quite ludicrous enough to attract media attention? Even for those actions that were withdrawn, people were arrested, questioned, taken to court, and then released. That isn't a law working properly. That is censoriousness of the most intimidating kind, guaranteed to have, as Lord Deer says, a chilling effect on free expression and free protest. Parliament's Joint Committee on Human Rights summarized, as you may know, this whole issue very well by saying, While arresting a protester for using threatening or abusive speech may, depending on the circumstances, be a proportionate response, we do not think that language or behavior that is merely insulting should ever be criminalized in this way. The clear problem with the outlawing of insult is that too many things can be interpreted as such. Criticism is easily construed as insult by certain parties. Ridicule easily construed as insult. Sarcasm, unfavorable comparison, merely stating an alternative point of view to the orthodoxy can be interpreted as insult. And because so many things can be interpreted as insult, it is hardly surprising that so many things have been, as the examples I talked about earlier show. Although the law under discussion has been on the statute book for over 25 years, it is indicative of a culture that has taken hold of the programs of successive governments, that with the reasonable and well-intentioned ambition to contain obnoxious elements in society, has created a society of an extraordinarily authoritarian and controlling nature. That is what you might call the new intolerance, a new but intense desire to gag uncomfortable voices of dissent. I am not intolerant, say many people, say many softly spoken, highly educated, liberal-minded people. I'm only intolerant of intolerance. And people tend to nod sagely and say, oh yes, wise words, wise words. And yet if you think about this supposedly inarguable statement for longer than 5 seconds, you realize that all it is advocating is the replacement of one kind of intolerance with another, which to me doesn't represent any kind of progress at all. Underlying prejudices, injustices, or resentments are not addressed by arresting people. They are addressed by the issues being aired, argued, and dealt with, preferably outside the legal process. For me, the best way to increase society's resistance to insulting or offensive speech is to allow a lot more of it. As with childhood diseases, you can better resist those germs to which you have been exposed. We need to build our immunity to taking offense so that we can deal with the issues that perfectly justified criticism can raise. Our priority should be to deal with the message, not the messenger. As President Obama said in an address to the United Nations only a month or so ago, laudable efforts to restrict speech can become a tool to silence critics or oppress minorities. The strongest weapon against hateful speech is not repression, it is more speech. And that's the essence of my thesis, more speech. If we want a robust society, we need more robust dialogue, and that must include the right to insult or to offend. And even if, as Lord Dear says, the freedom to be inoffensive is no freedom at all. The repeal of this word in this clause will be only a small step, but it will, I hope, be a critical one in what should be a longer-term project to pause and slowly rewind a creeping culture of censoriousness. It is a small skirmish in the battle, in my opinion, to deal with what Sir Salman Rushdie refers to as the outrage industry. Self-appointed arbiters of the public good, encouraging media-stoked outrage to which the police feel under terrible pressure to react. A newspaper rings up Scotland Yard. Someone has said something slightly insulting on Twitter about someone who we think a national treasure. What are you going to do about it? And the police panic and they scrabble around and then grasp the most inappropriate lifeline of all, Section 5 of the Public Order Act, that thing where you can arrest anybody for saying anything that might be construed by anyone else as insulting. They don't seem to need a real victim. They need only to make the judgment that somebody could have been offended if they had heard or read what has been said, the most ludicrous degree of latitude. The storms that surround Twitter and Facebook comment have raised some fascinating issues about free speech, which we haven't really yet come to terms with. Firstly, that we all have to take responsibility for what we say, which is quite a good lesson to learn. But secondly, we've learned how appallingly prickly and intolerant society has become of even the mildest adverse comment. The law should not be aiding and abetting this new intolerance. Free speech can only suffer if the law prevents us from dealing with its consequences. I offer my wholehearted support to the Reform Section 5 campaign. Thank you very much.